Hey everyone, what is going on? It is Brian. We are back and we have another video in collaboration with Keg N Bottle and Bourbon Pursuit, and we are taking a look at the two new Bull Run 13-year American whiskeys. Now we got these both poured out already, and we're going to dive into the first one, immediately go to the second one, and kind of wrap up. This first one in this Cecil and Coleman glass here, man, it gives you all of the scents that I feel like you are looking for in an American whiskey. It's graham cracker, it's cake batter, it's creme brulee, it's toasted sugars, maybe a little bit of oak. Not the focus, it's just really these sweet, desserty, confectiony-like flavors. I felt like when I first opened this up, it might have been a little bit like overly sweet. There was like a little bit of saltiness that came to the sweetness, and a couple of days open, I definitely think it balances itself out a little bit within the glass. If you like Angel's Envy rye, if you like that kind of rum, kind of sweet, just like a florally, a little florally fruitiness, but otherwise just a really nice sweet, finished like nose, I think you're really going to find some comfort in this glass here. Let's go ahead and dive into the palate. Dangerously drinkable. This one comes in at 62.85 proof, but it's just candy sweet on the palate. See if you can catch some of the legs dripping down here. Silky cake batter, creme brulee, vanilla custard, dense graham cracker crust. But on the palate, there is actually a little bit of like the bursting, like baked cherries, where like they're kind of like it's not quite blueberry, but you'll know how like if you cook fruits like that and it gets like really explosive, sweet, you get some baked fruit sweetness out of this glass. But it's not overly fruity. It has all that confectioner stuff that I talked about already. On the finish, it does have a little bit of the salted caramel note that I've talked about. Long and plush. It's like a nice mousse or like a whipped cream or something like that, with how soft and airy that it is as it sits on the palate. A little bit of vanilla, soft chocolate. And then it does have some more of the red fruits that enter the palate as well in the lingering finish. Dessert in a glass. I don't know what else you really need with this one after dinner. Let's go ahead and go into the second glass here. This is bottle 2. This one comes in at 61.97 proof, so a little lower. And honestly, pretty different on the nose too. There's a little bit more smoke to it. There's a little bit more earthiness to it. Just a slight bit of brininess to it. Man, it's got some complexity to it. Like a deeper, more resonant caramel, or like a slightly cooked vanilla. It's got this kind of malty fruit linger. I think that if you were to have told me that this was a Scotch, I'd believe you. Man, it gets really complex as it sits in the glass. Cinnamon, clove, chocolate, cigar wrapper, a little bit of fig, maple syrup, buttercream, frosting. It's nice, very nice. Let's go ahead and go in on the palate. Yeah, it's both different than what you'd think on the nose, but also has some similar flavors as well. It does carry some smokiness. It does carry some spice to it, but still has a really sweet profile overall. The first things that come to my mind are like reminiscing about sugar daddy candy, Bit-O honey candy, cowtails to an extent. Like older candies come to my mind while sipping on this one. It reminds me of going to Sonic, or I forget the name, but there was a place that my dad used to take us to when we were driving to my family's house in Owensboro or Whitesville area. and we would go and get these hand spun chocolate malts. It has a little bit of that profile to it. A lot of memories coming out of this particular glass. Is really weird. And while neither of these pours are dominant with oak, this barrel gives a little bit more oak tannins to it. And then a really deep fruit saturation as it finishes the palate with a kind of spicy little nip at the end too. It lingers with a lot of caramel. It reminds me of cookie dough, or maybe cookie dough ice cream, but it reminds me of cookie dough of both the semi-sweet chocolate as well as like just the texture and flavor of raw cookie dough. And then a nice array of the sweetness, earthiness, and the smokiness that we've already talked about already in the glass. Lots to unpack with this one, really interesting. So again, if you're wanting one that's very desserty, very easy to sip, kind of your after dinner, do this sub pie, sub your dessert, then BP-1 is going to be for you. If you want one that's got a little bit more complexity, maybe something that is if you're more of a Scotch drinker, you like some of those unique experiences, maybe some quirkiness, a little bit more depth, then I think that BP-2 is going to be for you. If you like American whiskey at all, light whiskeys, the Penelope, I've already talked about the Penelope before, or the Dancing Goat that we've talked about, or any of the other products, Old Carters maybe that you all have tried before. If those are in your wheelhouse, if either of these sound like they might be in your wheelhouse, I highly recommend both of these products. They're really, really drinkable. And honestly, I could do a blind another time down the road with all the American whiskeys. I'd really like to do that. But I definitely think this BP-1 flavor-wise goes really back and forth with the Penelope 13-year American light whiskey that I've had as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope this was informational for you. Leave me a message down below if you have checked out these, or again, if this sounds interesting to you, wherever it might be on the page, grab a bottle below and let me know if you do. I'd love to hear what you all think about it. Thanks, Keg N Bottle. Thank you so much, Bourbon Pursuit. Until next time, everybody, we'll see you all later.